welcome back to another episode of Playbook, you guys. I'm Colin Schofield. I'm here with Jacob Moreno. We do not have a full house for the first time this year. Our main volleyball person on here, Sienna Conahan, is feeling under the weather. In our opinion, she's being a little soft. But she's feeling under the weather, so no Sienna today. So it's just me and Jacob. Just gonna be here, me and Jacob today. Got a lot of stuff to break down. Non-revs are pretty much done essentially, and we are officially in basketball season. Both teams have some games under their belts. Jacob is very excited over there. In fact, there are games as we're recording this. Games in 2 hours as we're recording this right now. Jacob, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling so great, ready to deliver some very surface level volleyball knowledge and just talk about Temple sports.
Yeah, that's apologies in advance for lack of volleyball knowledge today from me and Jacob for you guys. But we're going to start with, as we always do, with the football team. Now, from the last time we talked to you guys, this is a football team that has kind of changed course. They have lost 2 straight games. They are 5-5 now after being 5-3 when we last talked to you guys. They went 0-2 in the last 2 weeks, starting with a 45-14 loss to East Carolina on November 1st. Then a pretty agonizing 14-13 loss to Army on November 8th. Against East Carolina, one of the better teams in the American Conference. I mean, Temple was essentially outmatched in about every facet of the game you can imagine. Gave up 614 total yards of offense. The secondary looked bad. They were banged up with injuries. The run game they gave up 358 rushing yards, the most on the season for them. Evan Simon threw his first interception of the year and nearly threw 2 others. So really just overall, it's a poor performance on all 3 levels for Temple. Won't spend too much time breaking down that loss just because there's not much to talk about other than the fact that they just got kind of ran over by the Pirates. And then they took on Army on Saturday. This past Saturday, we went up to West Point, gave you guys some live coverage from West Point. And Army wasn't a bad team, but they weren't like a top-tier AAC team. Of course, they ran the triple option offense, which you guys remember from Navy. And boy, did they run that triple option offense. They ran off. So Temple led 10-7 at halftime, I believe. Yeah. And then kicked a field goal in the second half after Army scored. It was 14-13 with 11 minutes left, and Temple had the ball. They punted, and they never got the ball back. Army ran the final 9 minutes and 53 seconds off the clock using that triple option offense. They converted 2 fourth downs, multiple third downs. It was very unfortunate. Temple only ran 14 second-half offensive plays. They held the ball for 89 seconds in the fourth quarter. So, really unfortunate loss. And Jacob, looking at that Army game, excruciating loss, what did you see from that game?
It's funny because up until, I want to say, the third quarter, I thought they contained the triple option fairly well, especially when you compare it to that second half against Navy last month. But then you saw just Army just straight up running the ball down their throats in every which way possible. Quarterbacks, fullbacks, running backs, just everything. And Temple just couldn't really master physicality, which is also kind of the issue against ECU. So that was my biggest takeaway. But the one thing I kind of did want to point out is Army only passed for, I think, 26 yards. And that one 26-yard play-action pass was the thing that completely just flipped the script of the game in the third quarter, because that's what Army scored in the opening drive of the third. Temple looked like they just did not expect that whatsoever, and that was kind of the pivot point that allowed them to get in the red zone and put up 7 and kind of ultimately determine the game. You
are exactly right. That one pass from Cale Helms just completely changed the entire game. For me, I look at the offensive side of the ball, and the offensive miscues were just kind of all over the place. I mean, Evan Simon still didn't have his best game against Army. He went 15 for 25, 157 yards, and 1 touchdown to Colin Chase in the first quarter. But you look at, he missed a couple throws. He missed Peter Clark on their first drive. He ended up completing a touchdown to Colin Chase on this drive, the next play. But on third down from the 2-yard line, he airmailed a throw to Peter Clark. Ended up working out because he made the throw to Colin Chase. Then, right before halftime, Temple got the ball back with about 26 seconds left. Evan Simon gets them down to like the 6-yard line with 6 seconds left and has Peter Clark open again in the back of the end zone. And again, airmails him. Now, this is a duo that's been really solid all year, and he missed him twice. The second one was the ultimate backbreaker because that held Temple to a field goal which ultimately ended up costing them. Casey Keeler said they came into that game looking for sevens, which means touchdowns. And they didn't get a 7 there. They got a 3. And that ultimately kind of cost them. So these kind of offensive miscues, they didn't get the running game involved as much as you kind of thought they might have after some early success. And just overall, just an ugly loss. A loss that's I think, going to come down and hurt this Temple team with only 2 games left. It's now their bye week. As we currently record this, they have a bye week. They do not play this weekend. Jacob, where do you think this team goes from the bye week? They're going to have 2 games left, which we'll talk about in a second. But where does this team go from out of the bye week?
I think they just need to get their offense back together. They face 2 pretty tough defenses in Army and ECU. I asked Casey after the Army game, with the offense, because they had 13 against Army and then 14 against ECU, was it more the product of facing elite defenses or was it execution? He essentially said it was a little bit of both. I think, kind of like you said, they need to get the run game involved because in all the chaos, Kevion Mason's kind of been solid these last 2 weeks with the carries he's gotten. I believe he recorded a touchdown against ECU and also unlocking that passing game as well. Jojo Bermudez, we haven't really seen him get involved. Colin Chase, he's kind of only gotten involved those short yardage gains, trying to be able to reconnect with Peter Clark. So just trying to kind of just weather that balance of rushing and passing that we saw them do first 2 weeks of the season. So that's what I'm looking for, and you're obviously going to cover it later, but they have 2 really tough games left with Tulane and North Texas, and obviously they need 1 more win to get bowl eligibility. So it's going to be a very tough test these last 2 games.
Yeah, for me, this is a team that needs to get healthy. This is a team that just
secondary
has to get healthy.
Banged up.
Against Army, I mean, they were down Dante Pollard in the secondary. They were down Sekou Chroma, down Demarick Morris. And Jalen Casper missed the ECU game. Avery Powell was down. So this team that is just, the defense is battered by injuries. And this bye week could be a big chance for them to get healthy to take on arguably the 2 best teams in this conference to end the year. Again, like you said, they need 1 more win to reach that first bowl game since 2019. But, man, it's not going to be easy. They take on Tulane on November 22nd, a Tulane team that is probably the best team in the conference coming off a big win against Memphis. And then they play North Texas to end the year on November 28th on Black Friday, a team that is 8-1 in conference. And quarterback Drew Mestemaker can really throw the ball. So it's going to be tough for them to pick up those 2 wins. Jacob, do you see a win in either of those 2 games?
It's possible. Just given the fact that they're 2 of the Americans' best teams and how unhealthy Temple has been, kind of the rut they've been in offensively, it is kind of hard to see them winning either of these 2, especially with North Texas being on the road. But I think their biggest chance is Tulane, obviously, at the link coming off a bye. But it's kind of hard to say that they're going to win one of these next 2 games.
I agree. That Tulane game might be their best chance at home with a week of rest. But for a team that was 5-3 to potentially lose 4 straight games might be ultimately backbreaking. But a 5-win season is still 2 wins better than the last 4 years for Temple football. But yes, the next 2 games are Tulane and North Texas, and then their season will be done unless they win one of those 2 games. Now let's move into basketball. Season is officially fully in swing for both teams here. We're going to start on the women's side. They got their season started first on November 3rd. They took down George Mason, the reigning Atlantic 10 tournament champions, made the NCAA tournament last year, returned 2 of their 3 top scorers, and they took down the Patriots 94-85 behind in overtime. Had a really, really impressive overall bench performance and equal opportunity offense and depth. That's all Dan Richardson talked about in the offseason was the depth. And she played every available player, which was everyone on the roster other than Anastasia Bolanova, who's out with a knee injury. Everyone played. Everyone scored in that game other than Chloe Miller. And really, it was that depth that I think kind of propelled them. I mean, they had Killian Sedano coming off the bench, playing final minutes of the 4th quarter, starting in overtime. Drew Alexander scored 13 points off the bench. Really, it was that depth that was just so impressive to take down a top Atlantic 10 team to start the year. Jacob, you think back to that game, what were your takeaways from that game, and how important is it to pick up a win like that to start the year?
It's extremely important because the first game of the season, there's typically going to be growing pains. There's going to be inconsistency. So the Owls figuring out how to win in moments like that in just game one, it's so critical, especially because they're a team with aspirations to win the American tournament and go to March Madness. So being able to execute in those crunch time situations, it's huge. And I know we're going to dive into more of this, but Sanaya Craig in that game, leading scorer, I believe, or no, not leading scorer, leading rebounder, one of the leading scorers. And she just came exactly as advertised, someone who just plays with so much intensity on both ends of the floor, especially off the glass, and just her ability as a post scorer as well.
Yeah, she has been extremely impressive. And then on November 7th, Temple played another A-10 team, George Washington. That one not as much as a nail biter. Cruised by the, apparently changed name to Revolutionaries. Didn't know that happened until we saw the game notes. I had no idea.
Writing that in the game recap was fun.
Yeah, that was not a fun word to spell. But they took down GW 86-50. Really, really slow start offensively in that game. They only shot 11% in the first quarter. Had like 7 or 8 turnovers in the first quarter. But then they picked up starting in the second half. Again, led by Drew Alexander. She really sparked that team. And she had 13 points again. Well, an easy win for them in game number 2. Jacob, you mentioned Sanaya Craig. Other than her, who has been the most impressive player to you so far?
You know, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I have to say Drew Alexander.
Yeah.
She's been the most consistent through 2 games. Been such a spark plug coming off the bench, averaging 13 points per game on 66% shooting from 3 on 4.5 attempts. That is just absurd. And we've seen, you talked about the equal opportunity offense, her getting the ball off the catch in transition. It's been swinging so many games and kind of commanding these runs, especially against George Washington, where they just blew them out of the water in the second quarter, which led to such a big blowout.
Yeah, and Drew Alexander is a player who the last couple of years, she's been in the program for a couple of years now and never really played, but we kept hearing from Diane and everyone else kind of on that roster that she can shoot the lights out. And she's displayed at these first 2 games. And she and the rest of that bench is going to be important in this stretch that's coming up. We're not going to talk to you guys for 3 weeks due to our Thanksgiving break. So in those 3 weeks, starting tonight, the night we're recording this, Temple is playing at West Virginia on November 11th. Really tough West Virginia team who beat Temple by 22 last year at the Liacouras Center. One of the favorites in the Big 12 again. And they host LaSalle on November 14th, an 11 a.m. game for school game. Not going to be fun for us as college kids here. They host LaSalle in their first Big 5 game. And then they're at Richmond, the reigning A-10 regular season champions, on November 18th. They are at Villanova for their second Big 5 game on November 22nd. And then they go down to the Bahamas for a matchup with Michigan State on November 28th. Another former NCAA tournament team from last year. And then they'll play, depending on that outcome, they'll play either Clemson or Western Carolina on November 30th to kind of end out that 3-week stretch past Thanksgiving. So a tough stretch coming up, especially with West Virginia and Richmond on the road. Jacob, these next 3 weeks, what are your expectations?
Quite literally just keep doing what you're doing through 2 games. The Owls have 5 double-digit scores. Granted, it's 2 games at a low sample size, but it really just does epitomize the ball movement they displayed. Tristan Taylor has been huge, averaging 15 points, really finding a great balance of playmaking and scoring. Their defensive ball pressure has been great, defending pick and rolls and just doing those little things. Their ability to push the pace, we're just all trying to maintain that momentum on both ends of the floor heading into all these upcoming games.
Yeah, it's a tough schedule. I'm extremely interested to see the West Virginia outcome and the Richmond outcome as true road games against really good teams, and see how they play in the Bahamas against Michigan State.
Shout out BJ Edgecombe.
Should be fun too. Why are you shouting out BJ Edgecombe?
Bahamas.
Oh, right. Now let's move over to the men's team. They've only played 1 game. Again, as we're recording this, they are playing in 2.5 hours from when we're recording this.
We're going to head over after this.
Exactly where we're going to be heading, give you guys some live coverage. But they won their opener on November 5th against Delaware State, 83-65, where we saw maybe the true breakout of Aiden Tobiasen. The freshman from last year, one of the 4 players to return, one of 2 starters to return, poured in a career-high 23 points, with 16 coming in a second half, where Temple it seemed like everything was going in for Temple in the second half. And he looked so impressive. We know in the offseason, Adam Fisher talked about wanting Aiden to be more aggressive and find his shot more, score more, after he really didn't shoot much last year as a freshman. And he did that in game number 1. Gavin Griffiths, who has now been coined as LeBron Frames for his look and high-flying prowess. They started that Delaware State game with Babatunde Duradola throwing a backdoor lob to Gavin Griffiths to pretty much electrify that crowd. Pretty cool start to watch. But those two really kind of stood out in game one. The guard depth was really on display. We know they have a lot of guards, always do. Jordan Mason, Darian Ford, Messiah Gilliard all really had strong games that game one. Jacob, takeaways from that first game.
You know, it's not often I can say this, Colin, but you really just took all of the words out of my mouth. Aiden Tobiasen in the second half, let's not forget to mention that he finished the game shooting 6 of 10 from the free throw line. Like, we did not see him, have that many on-ball reps last season with Mesh and Zion. So for him to really kind of be aggressive off the dribble, that really served him well. And Gavin Griffiths, LeBron frames, 16 points with 7 to 9 shooting. We didn't even see, yes, they started a game with that dunk, but he also did it 2 or 3 more times. His athleticism really popped to me, and it was honestly crazy to watch in real time. Darren Ford, kind of just because of how impressive Gavin and Aiden were, his performance kind of got overlooked a little bit. I believe he scored all 14 of his points in the second half and really just picked his spots well. Same with AJ, but I also do want to shout out Babatunde Duradola, just because even though he didn't have a crazy game offensively, looked in much better shape and held up well defensively, especially when protecting the rim. Obviously, he's still kind of a work in progress, but I did like what I saw from him as well.
Yeah, just overall really good team performance. And I also want to bring up new uniforms. We talked about this a lot at the first game. Makes them look a little old school. And we both were big fans of the new uniforms. It makes them look a little bit old school. Another note to bring up with the men's basketball team, news that had broke right before their game started. Yeah. C.J. Hines, the transfer from Alabama State, who might have been a starter, might have not been. We won't know. I guess we'll never really know. But was going to be an important scorer off the bench. Currently is ineligible for competition due to eligibility issues. Again, this is his 6th year in college basketball. So we don't really know what's going on with C.J. Hines, but just news to pass along that as of right now, they are moving forward without C.J. Hines. He attended the game on Monday. Or on Wednesday last week. We'll see if he keeps attending games. But as of right now, he's not able to participate in games due to eligibility issues. But this Owls team, again, we're going to go through without talking to you guys. So there's going to be a lot of games coming up. Again, starting tonight in 2.5 hours, they host their first Big 5 pod game against LaSalle, a team with a new coach in Darius Nichols, preaching toughness. Might be a little bit of a tougher game. And then they host Boston College on November 15th. Host Hofstra on November 19th. So really starting 4 games at home. And then they head down to Orlando. They take on UC San Diego on November 24th for the Terry's Chocolate ESPN Events Invitational. Then they'll play either Bradley or Princeton. And then a third game on November 26th of a mismatch of a bunch of mid-majors down there based on results. I don't remember all the teams that are down there. I think Rhode Island's playing down there, I want to say. Maybe they play UC San Diego. I don't remember the other teams that are down there. But they'll play 3 games down in Orlando. And then on December 1st, they will be at Villanova, an intriguing Villanova team with new head coach Kevin Willard. A lot of new faces over there. Villanova is always an intriguing matchup as kind of the class of the Big 5 from the last few years. So, again, a lot of intriguing games, some interesting home games. We're going to play a couple really good mid-majors down in Orlando. Jacob, what are you kind of looking forward to seeing these next couple weeks from this men's team?
I want to look forward to seeing just how the offense works because, like you said, against Delaware State, they really distributed the ball well in terms of who was handling it. They were rotating Aiden as the primary ball handler, Jordan Mason, Darren Ford, Gavin, all those guys. So I'm really interested to see how they can kind of incorporate all of them moving forward.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple weeks for this men's team. With only 1 game under their belt and so many new faces, we could see things changing game by game for who's getting that big scoring punch. And as the season goes on, again, Monrev's really winding down. Football's winding down. There's going to be a lot of basketball talk the next couple weeks.
Oh, yes, there will be.
Which we know Jacob is very excited about over there. Now let's move over to volleyball, where Jacob and I are not going to have as much in-depth analysis as Sienna. So for those of you who listen for Sienna's volleyball, I apologize. Jacob and I really aren't going to be able to go that in-depth. But we can break down what they've looked like the last couple weeks. This is a team that was on a 4-game win streak. Since we last talked to you, they knocked off Charlotte 3-1 in 4 sets. They knocked off East Carolina in 4 sets 3-1 to cap off a 4-game win streak. Now they've lost their last 2 matches. They fell to UTSA in 5 sets and then fell to North Texas in 4 sets. And that UTSA loss, pretty big one because they are right with Temple in the standings right now. UTSA currently is above Temple for the last tournament spot at 6-8 in conference. Temple is 5-9. And really, the only takeaway that I have from the last 4 games is Christiana Green has been on an absurd tear. I think she has 20 or more kills in 4 of her last 5 games. She's been I don't know volleyball that well, and I know that's kind of nuts. But this is a team now. I mean, they have 3 games left, and 2 of them are in conference. Their next game is probably the day you're listening to this on Wednesday is against Howard, a non-conference game, before they have their final 2 conference games of the year, where they will be taking on Tulsa at home on November 14th, and then Wichita State at home on November 16th. Now, these are 2 teams that are near the top of the conference. Tulsa's 10-4 in conference play and 20-6 overall. Wichita State's 9-5 and 17-9 overall. And Temple is going to need to win at least 1 match, probably 2 and some help, to get into the conference tournament. So interesting last 3 games for volleyball coming up. Again, we'll see if they get into that conference tournament. And sorry we don't have any breakdown, but hopefully Sienna will toughen up and be back next episode.
Exactly, just inexcusable.
We're joking, Sienna. Obviously, we know you're sick, and we don't want to get sick. And real quick, we're going to recap the end of the non-revs that ended just after the last time we talked to you guys, which is field hockey and the soccer teams. Field hockey ended their season with a win against Providence, but missed the conference tournament for the first time since 2019. They ended with 12 wins, which matches their win amount from last year, but missed out on the conference tournament, so their season has come to an end. And they'll say goodbye to the winningest group of seniors since 1994 in Peyton Rager, Lena Nielsen, Augustina Tuccieri, Isabella Ospital, and Hallie Ossenbach. So change is coming for Temple Field Hockey, but they have some young players that should keep them competitive. And then men's and women's soccer also came to an end. The women's team ended with a loss to UTSA. They finished 4-15, but might not seem like a good record, but a lot of improvement from that team. Doubled their win total from the last couple of years, so a lot of improvement there. And then the men's soccer team ended with a loss to Charlotte in UAB. That loss to Charlotte was a 7-0 loss to a really good Charlotte team. And they finished with a 1-13-2 record, their worst record in program history. Certainly a season to forget for Temple men's soccer. Have a lot of young returning players as well, so maybe they have something to build on going into next year, but certainly not an ideal season for Brian Green and co. after making the American tournament last year. And we'll end out real quick talking about some men's and women's cross country and some golf. The men's and women's cross country competed in the American Conference Championships, and where the men's finished 6th out of 12 and the women finished 13th out of 13. And then golf. They had this Big 5 championship moved a couple times due to weather, but finally got it and finished tied for 3rd out of 6 in the Big 5 championship. But that's all from Temple Athletics. Pretty eventful couple weeks, and we won't talk to you guys until after Thanksgiving. So, Jacob, what's your go-to Thanksgiving food? What's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
I'm going to go ham.
Ham?
Turkey's overrated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Stuffing's a good one, too.
I've never been a big stuffing guy.
Really?
No, I've never been a huge stuffing person. Interesting. My favorite Thanksgiving food. Thanks for asking, Jacob.
Yeah. What's yours, Colin?
My mom makes delicious sweet potato casserole.
I can't do sweet potatoes.
It's so good. Sweet potato casserole with like brown sugar coating on it. So good. But
Don't forget mashed potatoes too. Mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes are fire. Yeah. But maybe we turn this into a Thanksgiving food. Podcast. All right, whenever you're editing this, let us know what your favorite Thanksgiving food is. That was all from us for Temple Athletics. We will have lots of coverage, especially for basketball. You might want to tune in. It's an exciting couple basketball seasons. Jacob, where can you find all of our content on social media?
On social media, you can find us on Instagram at ttn.sports and then on X at ttn_sports.
And we will have all of the live coverage you need and more at temple-news.com. Jacob, that's temple-news.com. Thank you guys for listening.